just so you know. You're kicking it with K, that's all I'm gonna say. Oh, let's go. It's time to turn up your radio. Vibes will flow, just so you know. You're kicking it with K.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Kicking It with Kate Marie podcast. Thank you for tuning in. And I say this all the time, and I really mean it. I appreciate each and every one of you, from my loyals to the ones who watch us every now and then. And if this is your first time, welcome to the podcast. Okay, here at the Kate Marie podcast, we are a podcast for the culture. I love my people. And I like to enlighten our people. I like to bring things to our attention that we need. I like to help us grow, in every area of our life. So if I can just do that for one person, all this is worth it. So that's what you will expect here at the K Marie podcast. We have experts you will get advice from. You will learn, you will think, you will laugh. We just like to have a great time. And for those who know, this is going to be the last episode of season 3. Okay, so we are wrapping up. We are doing things differently. I'm taking breaks, just like a TV show would, like a hiatus, so to speak, in between seasons, because I am a creative and I am working on my first feature film, and I need to write my screenplay. I do, y'all. I do. And amongst other things. But yeah, so we will be back in October. I will let you all know that. Follow us on IG and Facebook with the handles at K Marie Podcast. And just be on the lookout. But throughout the hiatus, I will be, posting things and just updating you all. So I won't go completely silent. Okay. All right. So I want to end the season with one of my favorite segments, our center stage segment. And our center stage segment is where I bring on other creatives, from poets, from authors, from filmmakers. We've had rappers, some of everybody who is a creative, showcase their talents and let you know of their projects. And we've had some great people on. And today, it would not disappoint. Okay. So my guest today, Arrie Lane, is an award-winning poet, mother, actress, writer, and creative, born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. What up, though? She has performed on stages such as the Detroit Opera House, the Fox Theater, the Music Hall, and many other local venues. She also travels for both performances as well as to compete in poetry slams. Ari believes art heals and breaks down barriers. It is a creative's oxygen and greatest healing tool. Her debut spoken word album, Organized Chaos, Volume 1, can be found on all streaming platforms, streaming now. And I want to play a piece from that said album. It is called Spiritually Lifted. And as soon as Spiritually Lifted is over, the next voice you will hear is me welcoming our guest today. All right, enjoy.
You did something to my spirit, and I've been right ever since. I've been right ever since. You did something to my spirit, and I've been right ever since. No, I've been right ever since. You speak a language I don't think I've ever heard before, yet somehow I understand it. There's something about you that leaves me yearning for more, and damn it, I ain't never felt this before. I swear you must be psychic, I'm torn between whether this is really real or just some sort of Jedi mind trick. I've been searching for proof that it isn't real, but never can find it. I would say that you're the person of my dreams, but I never imagined this. How our hands together feel like perfect grip, and when we kiss, I swear I hear my heart's vault click like your key be the perfect fit and shit. I ain't never felt nothing like this. I'm sober, but you make me feel so high, it's gotta be illegal to feel like this. I mean, this is some Aladdin meets Jasmine magic carpet ride shit. A whole new world is what I see with you. And baby, you fine and all, but this is more than physical. It's mental, spiritual, this is metaphysical. I'm sure it defies all universal laws, baby. The way you make me feel deserves an applause. Baby, take a bow, but I already know you won't. See, cause you don't do it for the praise or the accolades. You do it cause you want to, and that is so damn sexy. Makes me always just wanna give you the best me. See, you deserve the love you give because yours is a blessing. And if we reap what we sow, then baby, your harvest is plenty. Because of you, my tank is never on empty. This spilling is foreign land, but welcoming. Feels like peace, like ancestral dwelling, like somehow I'm supposed to be here. Like house into home, hidden gem, best kept secret awakening. Scales falling from my eyes, perfect vision, baby. You did something to my spirit, and I ain't been right ever since. Cause what was left was you, and since you defy all universal rules, then I guess this is right. I guess we are right. I guess we make perfect sense. Even if we can't make sense of it, our spirits get it. See, they know what we don't. They know what a divine connection is, what it looks like, sounds like, feels like. Key into lock, click. And I've been right ever since.
Y'all, I'm over here doing the snaps. I can only do this. I can't do both. I can't. I'm sorry. I'll be at poetry. I'm like, I can only do one. All right. So everyone help me welcome Arrie Lane. Hey Ari.
What up, though?
What up, though? That's one of my favorite pieces from your spoken word album. Another favorite of mine is My Black Allegiance, and my favorite is Intimacy. Mm.
Yes, thank you. Intimacy, that was like the first poem that I did. Actually, Intimacy is the poem that like introduced me to
Mm.
um the spoken word world. Like I always wrote and stuff like that, but
Hmm.
um really quick story. Just
Okay.
really quick. I always tell this story because I was just invited to a friend of mine, my friend Carmen Michelle, who's also an actress, which is how we actually met at a fashion show
Okay.
um, that we did at this senior citizen home. But anywho, we both acted, and so we became friends, became really good friends. And she was celebrating her birthday, and she was like, "Sis, you gotta come. I'm having an open mic birthday party." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And I was like, well, I guess I'll write something,
Yeah.
for it. And when I went, I did this piece, and I was like bombarded with so many people like, have you been here? Have you been there? Did you know? And I was like, all these places exist. I didn't know.
Mm.
And that was a poem that, as
Really?
much as I've written, like that was when I found out about like the spoken word community. And that was just in 2019. That was June 2nd,
Mm.
2019. So not that long ago.
No, it's not. Not that long ago at all. Wow. You came. You came out the box with intimacy.
Yeah.
Okay. Y'all, look, I'm telling you, it's on every streaming platform. If you have Amazon Music or whatever streaming platform that you have, go ahead and listen to Organized Chaos Volume 1. Buy it. Trust me. If you love poetry, this is different. I like how you fuse the music with it too. I love it. I do. I was listening to it. 'Cause I went to the listening party that you had
Mhm.
for it, and the next day when it was released, because I was at work, I bought it. So even though I have the Amazon Unlimited, I really don't have to buy anything. But I was like, I'm going to buy it. You know, so I bought it, and I was at work. This every single piece hit. Okay, y'all. I mean, it's good. I highly suggest that you buy it. Okay, so spiritually lifted, the one that the people just heard, was that
Mhm.
inspired by someone?
No. So
Oh.
what it was inspired by is it was inspired by what I imagine,
Mm,
you know, meeting that special person feels like.
mm,
Um, I imagine because I we've all been in like all types of relationships, right? And I always think like, man, if I was willing to, if I thought this was love, and I can't imagine how it would be in real
girl.
love. But more importantly, how does that really feel? Like, what if I'm imagining it
Mhm.
based on all these experiences that I've had? What does that look like or feel like to me? And how can I like envision this? So it wasn't inspired by anyone. It was inspired by the idea of love and
Mm,
what it could feel like, and when you find that true love type of feeling.
I like that. So we have a mutual friend. Everybody know her on this show. My sister friend, your sister friend, Cameron. So that's how we met.
Mhm.
And 'cause I remember you did. 'Cause I'm like, when did I first meet Ari? When we did our movie review,
Yeah,
one of them, and you were a guest. Yep. So, uh, yep.
I
So
think it was
then,
like Mortal Kombat. Uh,
yes, yeah, something like that. Yes. And but my first experience with like your poetry, actually, when I had just gotten out of a relationship that was on the track to marriage in a few months. So got out of that. And so Cam was like, come on, get out the house. We about to go to
that's so
this.
Cam.
Yeah, right. Right. So she got me and we went to Raw Space. I think it was your birthday.
Yep.
Yeah, it was your birthday, and I was just feeling everybody in there, But when came on the mic, and I was just like, "Wow, she's really good. She's really good." And one of your pieces that you're known for too is alphabetically you, and you did that. That was my first time hearing it there. I was like, did this girl just go from A to Z about this brother? Okay. I was like, I was impressed. I was impressed. Yeah. So take us back to the beginning. When did you have a love of poetry? When did that develop?
So it's funny because I actually just finished a piece kind of paying homage to my relationship with poetry.
Mm,
And it's very interesting. Life has this way of coming full circle because when I was a little girl, like really young, my grandmother taught me my first poem.
mm,
And I always tell this story because it really, when I really think about it, it was the birth of my relationship with spoken word because she did not teach me from a piece of paper or book, but she taught it to me by memory. She taught me my first poem, which was Myself by Edgar Guest, which is a really awesome poem. And she would sit there, we'd sit in her living room, and we all had our own poem. I had a poem, my brother had a poem, and my sister had a poem, and we would just we would sit in her living room, and she would go through it stanza by stanza, line by line, and that was how I learned my first poem. Was actually, I've never read that poem. I did not read that poem for the first time until I was a full grown adult. Never read it for the first time until I was fully grown, which is crazy. But I learned it. I learned it from my grandmother, and so that was the start of my relationship with poetry. And like after that, through the years, I would like write. I loved writing. I always liked to write. That was always a thing for me. And I would write some poetry here and some journaling there, short stories. I was on all the fan fiction things. I was that person. I don't know if you remember the message boards back in the day, but like, you know, I was writing the little stories like part one. They like, oh, where's part two? You know, all that stuff. So I always loved writing, and I always wrote. I wrote songs a lot when I was young because I was gonna be a singer. Okay, that was the goal. The goal was not, oh, I'm gonna grow up and do poetry. But I wrote songs, a lot of songs, and I wrote poems, but they were more so just my outlet in a sense. And then when I moved into adolescence, I would occasionally perform some of the things that I wrote here and there with I call her my godmom, but we did. She was my double dutch coach and everything. And anyway, she had a open mic that she did at the Northland Mall. Rest in peace, Northland. But in a bookstore in there, and occasionally I would do pieces there. And then I, moved into my high school age, and we had my drama teacher, Miss Talaferro. She would do these I think it was like every few weeks, she'd have what's called Kumba Day. And, a lot of people are familiar with Kumba creativity from Kwanzaa. And so it would be on Fridays, and we would do creative things, and I would start to share some of my pieces there, but never really anything serious. I was more into like choir. And then by 11th grade, it was choir and acting. And, I had fallen in love with theater at that point, and that was where I was at. And so graduating high school, moving forward, what I would do is like every now and again, like every year and a half or every other year, like I would post like a video of a poem that I just felt the need to get out. And I would just put it on my Facebook, and it would like get a lot of responses and shares. And back then, I don't really think I thought much of it. I used to be like, "Oh, that's what's up. Y'all like it? Cool,
right?
Thanks, guys." But I never thought any further past it, and so I still wrote, and I still, enjoyed sharing, what I would write occasionally, but it wasn't something that I did on a frequent basis. And yeah, like 29. No, so I take that back. So before we got to 2019, when I discovered this world, in 2018 or early 2018 or late 2017, I lost a friend of mine to suicide. And at the time, I was being a friend to a friend who was, even though that was a friend of mine, they were way closer to them. That was their first love. And I'm being a friend, right? When you're being that support system, for someone else, then you wonder, where do I needed an outlet. And so I wrote. And that was where my piece Untitled came from, which Cameron was one of the actresses in the video for me.
I've seen that.
Yes, it is a
Mhm.
mental health awareness, suicide
Mhm.
awareness piece that is a conversation or what would be like this dialogue, so to speak, from both perspectives, from both the person that does or is contemplating or does ultimately make that decision of suicide, but also from the perspective of the friend
Mm.
who doesn't know or doesn't take like certain things seriously. And
Mhm.
here we are. It's May. It's Mental Health Awareness Month,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
perfect. We're talking about
It
this.
is.
It was, and so my spirit was like, I went to recite it and share it. Well, before I shared it, I went to recite it and I saw this video. I was like, wow, this is like a story and it needs to be shared. And I shared it with like two other people and they were like, are you making this into a video? Like because I didn't share my thoughts with anyone because I just wanted honest opinion. That
Yeah.
was always the first response. And so I'm like, okay, this is confirmation. And so I made my first short film, spoken word short film, which we were nominated.
Okay.
We were nominated for the Eclipse Award in Grand Rapids. And that was really awesome. And so that was the introduction, a little bit of that introduction into me delving deeper into that spoken word where I found that I could marry my love for acting
Mhm.
and you know and poetry together because they kind of worked hand in hand.
Yeah, they do.
And so a couple opportunities kind of came up and I took and then and that was 2018. And then in 2019 was when we got the nomination. And after that, in June, was when I wrote Intimacy for my friend's party, which I told you.
Mhm.
And so that was the catapult of like this career journey of poetry. But poetry's been a part of my life. I say all that to say it's been a part of my life forever, as long as I can remember. When I really sit back and when I finally sat back and really realized it, I'm like, poetry's always kind of been there, kind of like I friend zoned it.
I like that.
Like I friend zoned it, like you cool,
Right.
And it was like, okay, well, I'll be here waiting when you ready.
Right. Right. Just hanging around, right? Until you get the realization,
You
like,
know,
oh,
it's like, oh, you're the one.
right.
How dare I ignore you?
So is it safe? Was your grandmother, was she a poet? Did she like poetry, or did she write it, or did she just a lover of
Um,
it?
my grandmother was a lot of things. She was, I don't know how much poetry she actually wrote, but she is known for always like, and she was really heavy in church. And so everyone, especially that grew up with like my mom
Mhm.
and in the church with them, like the first thing they say when I make my post is, "Oh, your grandmother, she had the best. She, it reminds me of when she did the creation."
Mm.
And that's one of the pieces that she would do in church and teach to all the neighborhood kids because they would all come to her house. And I'm like, yeah, it's just like when she did the creation. No one did the creation like she did. But she was a great orator and speaker.
Mm.
And she also was a minister and a teacher. And, I wouldn't be surprised if she wrote some things. I know my mom wrote a lot of poetry. Shout out
Okay.
to Jennifer Lane. If I don't say her name, she's going to be like, but no,
Hey,
I'm kidding. I love
mom.
my mom. But my mom, she wrote poetry like um when I was younger. And she tells me like, I have books and pages and all this stuff of poetry that I used to write. And so it's interesting. So I always say like I think that it was a gift that I got from my grandmother
Mhm.
and my mom.
Mhm.
And interestingly enough, I feel like I learned about presence from my grandfather, who was like a man of very few words, but like he didn't have to say much. He was the epitome of what's understood, don't have to be explained.
Okay. Yes. I
You
think
know,
a lot of our granddaddies was like that.
yeah, very communicative without having to say
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Um, and that's a thing for me. That's presence.
Mm.
That is when someone embodies their presence and the energy around them so much so that it conveys a message, and it's able to speak for them without them even
Yes.
having to open their mouths. That's
Yes.
power.
Yes, it
So,
is. I'm like you too. My mother, she's a great she poet. She's when I was small, she used to write poetry. She had a whole bunch of poetry, and little girls want to be like their mothers, want to
mhm.
emulate them. So I would like try to write me a poem, because I knew that she wrote poems, and like for me, because I like you, I've always been I write short stories, write songs and stuff like that. But for me, like my mom, because I get that from her, the writing. I mean, anything, term papers, essay paper, just any type of writing, I loved it. But like for poetry, I have for me because it's not like I love it, but like only write it like if I am feeling inspired. I know like when you really like have the gift, whatever, you can just go like just write, because that's how I am with short stories. I just get an idea, boom, just write. But with poetry, it's like I have to be inspired by something. So I have a few little poems, but I admire your cadence, how you put it together.
Thank you.
It's just I love it. You out here Jill Scotting it. I mean, just I mean, seriously, I love Jill Scott, her poetry too. So, but
She's awesome.
she is awesome. So, at what exact moment did you actually like fall in love with poetry? Like this, yeah, this is what I'm
Mm,
supposed to do.
that's a good question. Um, I don't know if I remember the exact moment, but I think it's a string of moments. What makes me love poetry and stay connected with it,
Hmm.
like stay in love with it, is that feeling that I feel um when like I write something and I'm going over it and I'm like, I get this feeling like, oh, that's the one. Like this has to be shared, and I'm excited about my work when I write
Hmm.
it. I'm not excited about every single piece. Some pieces, there's some poems that the world will never hear. Um,
I was just about to say, is there some poetry that you just keep for yourself?
Absolutely,
Hmm.
there are pieces that I learned were just for me.
Hmm.
Um, and then some pieces that I realized not necessarily were they weren't necessarily just for me, but they were like building blocks. And some everything is not going to be something that you perform or that you publish, or
Yeah.
sometimes writing is just writing. It's released and
Yeah.
and
Therapeutic.
necessary, you
Yeah.
know. And so I think I fall in love with it consistently because I think I fall in love with it consistently because I love I just thoroughly enjoy painting pictures. And when I feel like certain pieces just like make me smile, and I just be like, oh man, I love this. I can't wait to share it.
So which
And
so which piece did that? Which piece did that? That first piece. Which piece? Like
first, so interestingly enough, intimacy, I liked intimacy and I thought it was great. I didn't expect necessarily to get the response I initially got from it. I think the first piece that I was like intimacy was the thing that was like, we could probably write some more stuff. Let's write. Let's like let's. let's pull out some old stuff and let's write some new stuff. But I think so. Let's see. Definitely. So it's so many pieces that I have that experience with, but alphabetically you.
Mm.
I was excited about alphabetically you because I'm really big on challenging myself.
Okay. I know that was a
And
challenge.
I was like, the challenge of it, it wasn't necessarily writing it. It was more so I don't know if you're familiar. There's a rapper called Papoose.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so Papoose, dope, great lyricist, right?
Mm-hmm.
He came out with this freestyle like years ago
Yeah. Yeah.
called Alphabetical Slaughter. And I remember when I heard it then, I was like, yo, this is dope. This is so cool. I've always been a fan of lyricists. Like, I've always
Yes.
been a fan of writers. So, like,
Yes.
while some people have, I can debate all day about favorites, but I love hip hop, right? I'm Nas over Jay-Z, and no shade to
Girl.
Jay-Z, but that's just me. I like
Yes.
listening to Mos Def. And so I had a different taste
Yes.
in things. And so I heard that, and that was real dope. And I was like, it'd be really cool if, like, what he did was dope, but I want
Mm-hmm.
to do it where every letter transitions into the next one. I don't want to use any filler words that
Mm-hmm.
don't start with that letter. So, like, for those who don't know, like, filler words are like the, it,
Mm-hmm.
this, and it, and all those little and whatever. Those are filler words. And so my goal was like fluently flow and tell a story without having to take breaks to connect your words with words that don't start with that letter. And so coming up with it wasn't bad. Funny story, I always tell people, I wrote that poem, memorized it, and realized that I was completely missing, was it a J? I was missing
Oh.
a letter, like J or K. One
Uh,
of those letters was missing, and I was like, and I had fully memorized it.
mm.
And I was like, something's not, I didn't know what it was because I was excited. I'm like, yeah. And at some point, something in my head was like, something's missing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, you're missing a whole doggone letter. And like, if you're like me, and I'm like, there's somebody. Because I've had a lot of people say nobody was going to catch it. I
Oh,
said,
somebody's gonna catch
no,
it.
someone's going to catch it, because when you do stuff like this, people are following along, waiting to see,
Yeah.
oh, that was good, but they didn't do letter such and
Right.
such. So,
Right. Oh, you know somebody's gonna catch that.
I said, no, somebody was going to catch it. I wasn't chancing it on that. And I have a thing about when I present things, I want it to be at its best. And so
Yes.
that wouldn't have been enough that, oh, no one would catch it. Because for me, I caught it
Yeah.
and it bothered me. So,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that was probably one of the first poems that I started feeling those things for. But I definitely, any poem that I've ever performed, I felt that way about at some point when I wrote it. And I was like, oh, I can't wait to share this. Any poem I've ever performed, I've had that moment with. Like, if I've ever shared it, I've went through this moment of, with the exception of, I have one exception, and that it was a piece that I performed for me. And it was just a piece that was personal for me, but it was
Mm.
also, it dealt with dealing with autoimmune disorders, and this relationship that I've had with um keeping it so long to myself and carrying it so long
Mhm.
for myself. And because that was my way of controlling how people wanted to perceive me being ready or capable or things like
Mhm.
that. And I remember it was almost like you don't realize that you're being held captive to something until you realize how hard it is for you to actually talk about it.
That's true. Yeah.
And that was one of those things I said, I've only performed it like maybe twice. But I performed it. That was something that it wasn't like I had this aha moment, but it was also a chance for me to own it for myself
I get what
and
you're
get it
saying. Yeah.
out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. Okay. All right. So, take us through the process of coming up with your first spoken word album. How was that?
Oh, it was a journey.
Yeah.
I had all these names, and I was like, what am I gonna name it? And it's crazy because organized chaos came from a conversation with my sis, with Carmen, and we're on the phone. Me and Carmen and Michelle, we're talking. I'm like, I got these names, and I'm like still on the fence, and I know
Mhm.
I want this and I want that. Initially, I wanted to do a bunch of collaborations.
Hmm.
And then I said, well, my spirit was like, well, the first thing you need to do is get what you have out and then build the rest. And
Yeah.
I was like, all right, let's do that. All right. Sometimes you have them conversations with yourself, like, okay,
Yes.
crawl for you walk, crawl for you walk.
Right. Because we have so many like ideas. Like,
Yeah.
okay, bring it back.
It's like you can still do that, but like
Right.
this first. And so I was like, okay, let me choose. And I was like, I'm gonna write a couple things. I want some new stuff and I want some older things. And I was like, I want it to be this journey. And I'm talking to her. I'm like, so I got this name and I got that name. And I was like, but girl, I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm just organized chaos. So
Mhm.
and she was like, that's the name. That's what you should call it. And I was like, you think so? I was like, you know what? That's perfect because it describes me perfectly. Like I am absolutely organized chaos. Like my mom and I butt heads because she'll be like, girl, she'll go moving stuff. I'll be like, but I knew where it was.
Right.
There's no way you could. No, I knew where it was. I know that pile of papers next to that book, that notebook over there, and the pen is over. But I knew exactly where in that pile what I needed was. I knew,
Right.
it's my chaos, but it is organized in my way, and I also think very organized chaotically,
Mhm.
like where I am there are a bunch of moving pieces and they only make sense to me, but my goal is to take that and make it make sense for
Yeah.
everyone else. And I'm able to do that because, well, it's mine. So I know how to share it in a way that it can be received. And so that was the start. It was the title. And then it was like, well, I had all this stuff and I was like, we gotta chop all this out. We're not doing all this can't be on one.
Mhm.
All right. Like you can come out with a deluxe or later, volume two,
So
something.
how many like did you have or at first?
Initially,
Yeah,
I
initially.
was choosing from initially I was choosing from like 20 pieces. So I was like, and I knew that I wanted to write some, which I was like, all right, so let's pick and choose here. And I was like, I have to give like there are some that I absolutely knew I was like, these have to be here. Like people are gonna be looking for these, like alphabetically, you people are gonna be looking for that. They're
Right.
gonna be like,
Right.
this has like, why is this not on here?
Right.
People have already asked me prior to that, like, is this recorded anywhere? Can I listen to some? Like,
Mm.
okay. So there were some pieces that I knew had to be there for the sake of um the public and those who are gonna support, right?
Yeah.
Like you want to make sure what they want is there. And then it was like I don't want it to be all old stuff. And so I had to be very strategic then as well with what I was going to put out, even just going out and performing and things like that in preparation, because if I give it too soon before the album comes out, then it's not
Mhm.
something new for the
Mhm.
album.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then some things I came up with um, like the finishing pieces and decided last minute, like, you know what, I should record this in the studio. Just talking to my producer, shout out to Mel Melodic Mel. He's a great producer. Um, and who he's the person who helped me come up with the background vocals and how I would
Okay.
make that for Spiritually Lifted. Cause I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I want it to be this, so there was that part of it, create that, like what's gonna have a backdrop to it and what
Mm-hmm.
doesn't need a backdrop and how are you going to transition. I had to think about all of that in that process. Like, how are these going to transition from, okay, you're going from relationships, this introspective, this love, this
Right.
you,
Right.
how is this all going to flow in this organized chaos of
Right.
yours? It still needs to be a journey that doesn't feel like it's all over the
Yeah.
place. So organizing the chaos and sitting, talking to peers that I respected, friends, I asked people like, what is this? What are some pieces that you would want to hear on my first spoken word album? Like I asked because, why not? You got to ask
Yeah.
questions.
You do.
Um, I wanted it to be something that people wanted. I knew that some people would support and they would want to hear, but I ultimately wanted it to have things that people were looking forward to. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "Oh, I've been waiting to have this so I can listen to it whenever I want to listen to it." And there were some pieces that I recorded that I didn't put on the album for different reasons. Part of the reasons were I felt like they weren't, once I finished them and I had kind of started moving songs around and figuring out how I wanted it to flow, I said, you know what? That's not for this particular collection.
Project. Mm-hmm.
As much as I want to share it and all this stuff, it's not for this. And so I have about at least four other pieces that I recorded that didn't even make the cut, if you will.
So was it,
So
you think it's going to be in volume 2 or the subsequent volumes?
very
Yeah.
likely, especially because at least two of them are not pieces that I perform very often.
Hmm.
Um, and so that'll be a nice treat. But it's all they're pieces that people love when they hear them, but I don't perform them very often. So
Okay.
um and one is like this letter to myself. It's actually the only poem that I've ever struggled memorizing. And I don't really have that. I don't know why exactly, but it's the only one. It is the only one that
Hmm.
I struggle memorizing the in entirety. I've never had that issue just with this one particular piece, and I love it. I love it so much, and it deals with empathy and
Yeah.
just reminding us to have empathy.
Yes.
And
Oh my
I
God.
love it. I love it. I love it. And when I share it, it is enjoyed. But it did not make the cut. I didn't have a place that I felt like it worked and fit for this group. So yeah, those pieces will very likely, if I don't know if all of them will,
Mm-hmm.
but one or two might make it on
Okay.
the next one.
All right. Give us something to look forward to for the next one and next
Yeah.
ones. Okay. So talk about your being an award winning poet, because I know you do different poetry slams, and because I know you won one here in Detroit, right?
So yes, so okay. So yes,
Talk
I
about
have
your
done,
accolades.
I do a little. little bit, little bit. So I was the last 2 years. I was a finalist in the Motown Mic competition. Last year I came in second. This year I came in third. But we placed. We
You
won
place.
awards. But also had really great opportunities. Shout out to Motown Museum and Motown and Hitsville Next, which is their outreach branch of the museum. And
Mhm.
I have been afforded so many opportunities. I've met so many just great people, uh, both from the community and outside of the community. You know, we got this year, we were given these amazing photo shoots um, for our just branding and building. And I mean, they did our makeup and it was for the
Like
photos
the
were
star treatment.
it was full. Okay, I felt and when I say like the makeup was amazing. Okay. It was listen, I didn't want to take it off. I said it's too bad I'm
Girl.
single because this is date night. Like this it was giving. It was
Don't you
giving.
love that? Like when you have a nice beat, it's like you just lay down like I just
You
don't
don't
want
even
to
want to
touch
take
it.
it off. You're like, I need to find something to do. That was how I felt.
Yes.
I came home and made TikToks. I don't know.
Okay. That was
I was like, we're gonna do something. We're gonna do some
good.
reels on
Something. I gotta show
Instagram, some
off his
TikToks, you
face.
know.
Yes.
We're gonna get some use out of this. But yeah, and so, but even outside of that, just like the mentors, we got mentors. My mentor was one single rose who was
Oh,
absolutely
I like her.
she's amazing.
I like
She
her.
does it all, and which is why I love her so much. On top of her dope spirit, and
Mhm.
she has such a heart for people, and she's a poet, she's an actress, she's a writer, director, producer, singer. I'm like, I'm trying to be like you when I grow up, girl. Like, I want to be like you. No, she's amazing. So it
She
was
is.
really awesome to have her as my mentor. I was a little nervous, and it's funny because when this is like, yeah, we see each other in these
Mhm.
poetic streets, but because I look up and respect her so much, like I'm like, okay, so I hope that she likes this my entry piece. Like I hope she likes it and can see my vision. And you really want them. You really are hoping, and that was a journey too. You want them to like it, but
Yeah.
also like I had to learn like it's not that. And I love criticism and critique, and
Mhm.
but I had to learn to mourn things that did not serve purpose. So in growing and you have a mentor, you understand that their intent and their goal, the reason that they're there is to help you
Yeah.
and to and help bring you to the next level. Um, you have to be open. You have to be open to that journey. And so that was new for me, but it was a really great journey. And I'm glad that I got to do it with her. It
Aw.
has also afforded me the privilege. Last year, we had the opportunity of doing a master class with the legend, the living legend, Mr. Smokey Robinson,
Okay.
which was absolutely amazing. I was able to,
With Mr. Ice. Okay.
okay, I was able to ask my question directly to him, and
Uh-huh.
he responded to me. And I still have like the videos. I look at them, you know, as
That's
just
what's
for
up.
reassurance, listening to hear his journey. But outside of that, I do slams like around the US, and I've I've got a lot of I just won first place in the Cincinnati Poetry Slam in
Okay.
March, which was awesome. I did the Gods and Goddesses Slam last year. That was one of my bigger slams.
Okay.
That was my first really big slam outside of doing the Motown Slam. But that was in Rockford, Illinois, and I came in second. And this was up against poets from all over from
Congratulations.
North Carolina and St. Louis and Chicago and Tennessee. And so all over. And so that was really awesome. A great experience that Goddess Warrior Poet did. Really great. And just winning and placing second place, third place. Like that was my last year. This year we're claiming a lot more number ones, but just to be in a position to win awards and finances,
Right.
that's good too. Because
I mean,
we
it's
win
always nice
money.
to it's always nice to I mean, it is nice to get money from what you love to do. I mean, I'm
Let's
sure
keep it real.
yeah, let's keep it all the
Yeah.
way real. I mean, that's the goal to actually make a living off of something that you love to do.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
I
what's up.
think we have to speak that more. Like I don't understand, people like, well, it's just no, no, no. I
Yeah,
want to be paid. It's nothing wrong with wanting to be paid for doing what you love. And who
at
says that
all.
you can't? We come from a time where that was kind of, I ain't gonna say we were lied to. I think they were lied to. And so the only thing that the world at the time could do was kind of teach us what it knew,
Yeah.
and that the arts wasn't they weren't viable
Right.
opportunities. But I know for a fact that your gifts will absolutely make room for you.
Yes.
These opportunities, uh, getting booked, just going and getting booked, and I just did a show in Chicago, which was really awesome, and it was awesome in the sense of I was already going out there to support a friend of mine,
Mhm.
and I was like, let me see what's going on out here. And, to be asked to extend your stay, um, to do an event that they're going to pay you for, um, that was really like, that was a moment for me. Like, wow, like y'all are okay. They were like, what's your price? What was it? How, and that was like, an eye opener for me because it's like, y'all want me? Like y'all could have been like, oh, she only staying this long, but to be asked like, hey, look, we want you. That was really awesome. And that's been a great experience. Having people reach out. I've had this journey has been very interesting.
Mhm.
And I go through this stage of I guess what people are calling it imposter syndrome sometimes, right? And
Mm.
it's like my family tells me like, "Oh, you don't give yourself enough props," and my friend was like, "What? You don't give yourself enough props?" I'm like, "I'm all right." They're like, "No, all right." Like people mess with you. I'd be like,
Yeah.
"Okay, like it's cool." I was booked. Now this opportunity last year, I was booked for a bridal shower,
Okay.
and it was by this lady's sister, and she emailed me and she was like, "You're my sister's favorite poet. Like, she
Mm.
really loved you, and I really want to book you, and I want it to be a surprise. Like, you're gonna be the surprise guest. She's not gonna know that you're coming." And I was just kind of like, is this real? You know?
Right.
And so and so the year comes, they booked me like way last year, and the event was the top of March. And she's just like, no, like, I'm really like, I'm really one of
Wow.
your biggest fans. I'm just so excited. I'm sorry. And I was just like, really? Like,
All right.
me? Me? I mean, I'm all right. No, but it was really humbling. But it's wild. But I appreciate that, and it's the type of stuff that makes you be like, okay, you know. And she's like, I've been to almost every one of your performances, and I'm just
Oh
like,
wow.
wow, like that is like literally like that's awesome. And I'm like, I don't know how to receive it sometimes. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying?
Yeah.
But I'm learning to, and just
Just
it's
take
okay
it
to
all
say thank
in.
you.
Yeah.
When
It
people
is.
give you your flowers, to just say thank you. You ain't gotta downplay it. You ain't gotta. And
Exactly.
I'm working and I'm growing and I'm just learning to be
Okay.
like, you know what? Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
good, good, because it's gonna be a lot more of that. So yes.
I received that.
I mean, it is. So what is your ultimate goal when it comes to your creativity? Not necessarily because you're more than a poet, so
Yeah.
you do other things. So, what is your ultimate goal? What would be the thing that says, you know what, I made it?
Um, I don't know if there's a I made it mark for me, but it's definitely to be able to share my art in whatever facet that it is conveyed on, whether that's acting, writing, poetry, performing, whatever. But to be able to just give that to the world, to offer my perspective and be able to paint stories that people can connect to and
Mhm.
relate to, and to be able to share that with as many people as I can, the love of what we do and how we, as a creative, right? Like,
Mhm.
we have all these different facets to
Mhm.
ourselves, and I just I just want to create and give people something that they can enjoy and feel good about. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's always going to be warm and fuzzy stuff, but
Right.
that 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 you can think about, that resonates. Always want to give people things that resonate in some capacity.
I like that.
So, yeah.
I like that. Okay, so as we wrap up, tell the people where they can find you. Um, so like if they want to check you out, they're local. Everybody know I'm Metro Detroit, but if they want to check you out in Metro Detroit, or even when you go out to other states. So how would someone be like, "Where's Ari going to be this weekend?"
So, okay, so let's get this started. As I like to tell people, you can find me, Arrie Lane, on all platforms. I like to tell people, so first of all, that's ARRIELANE. And on Facebook, you're going to put a space between the two. And on Instagram or Twitter, you're going to squish them together. Just squish them together, put a space on Facebook. And you can find me as well on YouTube. But you also, because if you don't know, as our lovely host, she is rocking some merch of mine, her ancestral drip.
Crop top,
Yes, it's her crop.
crop hoodie.
Uh, yes, crop hoodie. And so I also have t-shirts, hoodies. I also have another brand called I'm Magic. Um, that being said, my website is back up, so you can order online at arieslane.com. You can find out any information. If you go to my Instagram, so go to my website for merch and things like that. We're getting all the dates and stuff. We're gonna get all that stuff up to the website, but that is a process, and I am learning this. And independent artists, we out here thugging it out,
Right,
doing
right,
it ourselves.
right.
But if you want to know, I do have some events coming up. I have a lot of events coming up in June around the Detroit area, as well as a couple out of state things. So if you want to stay up to date with that, you want to go to my Instagram, Arrie Lane, and click the link in my bio. That is my link tree. That's going to have the links to where you can get tickets for events that I have coming up. I have an event coming up on the 21st this month. That is a poetry painting with a poetic twist. I love
Mm,
it, right? And it's going to be really dope with some really great
mm.
artists as well. Other poets, Jew Hall, Vonnie Peel, Inspire Her. It's going to be really great. And we're going to get our paint on and our poetry on
I like
and have a
that.
great time. A lot of Juneteenth events coming up. So go to my Instagram, Arrie Lane, ARRIELANE, and you will find me. And that's where you find me everywhere. I keep it simple.
And I will have all of her information in the episode description. So, Ari, I want to thank you for coming on and being my guest for the last show of the season. And again, y'all, I will be back in October. But Ari, thank you so much. And I'm gonna have to see if I can squeeze in that poetry and paint.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for having me,
Oh,
and
no problem.
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on and out your busy day, and I really appreciate it. Don't take that lightly when people take time for me. So I thank you so much.
Likewise, thank you. I
All right.
appreciate you.
Okay, so don't click out just yet, but everybody else, thank you so much. Season 3 has been great. Okay. And season 4 will be even better when I come back in
Mhm.
October. So, again, everybody, click like, share, follow, do all of that good stuff. Kicking It with K. Marie podcast on every streaming platform except for Tidal, but everywhere else. And I will see you. It's been a joy. I will see you season 4. Thanks, Ari, again. Bye,
Thank you. Bye,
y'all.
y'all.
Oh, let's go. Let's go. It's time to turn up your radio. Turn up the radio. Just so you know, you're kicking it with K. That's all I'm gonna say. You're here now.